Hello, I'm Jennifer Filla. I'll be your Prospect Research Institute guide for this video. In this video, we're going to cover 3 tips for navigating big files in Excel. First, we're going to select a large group of cells. Then we're going to treat a number as text. And last, we're going to copy a value across a selection of cells. Are you ready? Let's jump into it. Today we find ourselves in an export from the donor database that was used for some donor retention analysis. When we do Control End, we can see that we have over 7,000 rows or records represented here. And while that's not huge, it's not 100,000, it is large enough to become unwieldy. We also noticed that it only takes us to July 1st of 2015, and we're going to be evaluating full calendar years. So I've decided I'm going to delete all rows that have 2015 gift information. So I can select that first row and scroll down to the row for January. So I want to delete these 659 records. I'm going to now shift and select this row. So I started by selecting the first row I wanted to delete, and then I held my shift key and selected the last row of the set that I'd like to delete. I'm now going to go ahead and delete those. I did an opposite button click. Great. So here I am. Let's see how many records I have left now. I'm going to do Control End. Oh, it still takes me down to the 7,229th record. That's really annoying, right? When you hit Control End, you want to get to the end of the data set, especially the larger the data set. Well, I'd like to show you another way to select cells. In this case, I don't want to select the rows. I'm going to select the data set. So I put my cursor in the last cell of the set that I'd like to highlight. Now I put it in the first, but I'm going to do it with my Shift key held down. So I'm going to Shift and click. Now I'm going to copy, pasted it into a new Excel spreadsheet, and now when I do Control End, oh, look at that. How nice, it took me to the last row. So that is one of the ways to avoid those dead records that you deleted. Here we are a little further along in our donor retention analysis, and we are separating some values by the year, and the year is a number. So we can see that we have 2011 through 2014 in these columns, and here we have 2012 through 2014. These are the numbers of donors who have been retained across these years. What I'm going to point out to you is why you would want a number to be treated as text. For example, we want to total these years to find out just how many donors were retained across those years. So we will go to the end of our file, Control plus End, and we're going to use the sum function here. The sum function automatically takes the first numerical value in the column and takes the last numerical value. As you can see, we have H1 through H1919. And I can hit enter and it gives me the sum total of that column. But what do we know about H1? That's the year. So we now have added 2012 to our total, which is an error. We could go in and go up here and tell it that we want to start with H2, and that's a drastic change in the value. Or we could navigate here to the formula bar, and we could use an apostrophe. Notice how we get the little green triangle in the top left corner. It's sort of asking us, it gives this little caution symbol. The number in this cell is formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe. And it's worried about that because it wants us to treat it as a number, which is exactly what we wanted to do. We could also do something as simple as adding a Y for year, and suddenly it's text. Notice how it moves to the left margin when it's text, and it's at the right margin when it's a number. So those are two ways you could approach the years. But there's another common issue with numbers that we want stored as text: zip codes. These are numbers, but typically they're not numbers that we sum or we subtract or multiply on. We don't do mathematical calculations on zip codes. And I know from my hometown in Collingswood, New Jersey, where I grew up, my zip code was 08108. What happens when I type that? I lose the leading zero, and the post office cares about that leading zero. So we can go into the formula bar, add an apostrophe, add back the zero, and presto, we have stored it as text, and it will show up properly when we address the envelope. In this example, we'd like to apply a score to a chunk of these records, a recency score. Looking at our donation date, we have it sorted descending, and we would like to apply the score 5 to a fifth of the records that are the most recent. In this case, we're going to combine our tips. So we want to score the first 13,013 records with the number 5. So we go down to row 1313. We put our cursor in that box. We scroll back to the top and shift and click to highlight the cells that we would like to have the number 5 in. We then type the number 5, but instead of hitting the Enter key, we use the Control plus Enter key, and we have now filled all of those cells with the number 5. That's much faster than clicking the bottom corner and dragging the value down. Thank you for tuning in to these Excel tips. We look forward to learning with you again soon.